I need you to understand something before I tell you this story. What happened at Mercy General Hospital changed me in ways I'm still trying to comprehend. The police think I'm lying. My therapist thinks I'm delusional. But I know what I saw. I know what followed me out of that place. And I know it's still watching. My name is Marcus Chen. I'm a freelance photographer, 29 years old, specializing in urban exploration photography. Abandoned buildings are my bread and butter. The decay, the way nature reclaims civilization, the stories left behind in the peeling wallpaper and rusted equipment. I've shot over 50 abandoned locations. Factories, schools, shopping malls, even an old prison once. I thought I'd seen everything. Mercy General Hospital was supposed to be another job, just another portfolio piece. A collector in Seattle was paying $3,000 for a series of photographs from inside before the demolition crews arrived. The hospital had been closed for 6 years after a malpractice scandal and subsequent bankruptcy. Sitting empty on the edge of town, slowly being consumed by kudzu and rot. The building was scheduled for demolition in 2 weeks. This was my last chance. I should have taken that as a warning. I arrived at Mercy General just after sunset on a Tuesday in October. The autumn air carried that crisp edge that makes you think of death and dying leaves. The hospital loomed against the darkening sky. 7 stories of crumbling brick and broken windows, like a skull with empty eye sockets. The fence around the property had more holes than metal. I slipped through easily, my camera bag bumping against my back. I'd brought my good equipment: DSLR camera, 3 lenses, tripod, flashlight, spare batteries. I planned to be inside for 3, maybe 4 hours. Get my shots, get paid, get out. The front entrance was boarded up, but I'd done my research. The loading dock in back had a door with a broken lock. I made my way around the building, dead leaves crunching under my boots. The sound seemed too loud in the gathering darkness. That's when I noticed something odd. There were no birds, no insects, nothing. The silence pressed against my ears like cotton. Even the wind seemed reluctant to touch this place, moving around it rather than through it. I should have left then. But $3,000 is $3,000, and I've never been smart about ignoring red flags. The loading dock door opened with a rusty groan. Beyond it, darkness. Complete darkness. My flashlight beam cut through it like a knife through ink, illuminating a corridor that stretched deeper into the hospital. The walls were covered in peeling green paint, and the floor was littered with papers and debris. I stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind me. I spun around, heart suddenly racing. Just the wind. Had to be just the wind. I tried the door. It wouldn't open. The handle turned, but the door remained firmly shut, as if something on the other side was holding it closed. Great, I muttered, my voice echoing strangely in the corridor. Swollen wood, humidity, totally normal. I was talking to myself. Already. Not a good sign. I had no choice but to go deeper. The first floor was what I expected. Patient rooms, stripped bare. Gurneys overturned in hallways. Scattered medical records turning yellow and brittle. My camera captured it all. The aesthetic of abandonment, the poetry of decay. This was familiar territory. Safe territory. The nurses' station on the first floor had a bulletin board still covered in notices from 2019. Staff meeting, Thursday, 3 p.m. Dr. Morrison's retirement party. Missing, patient 413. That last one gave me pause. The notice was dated 2 weeks before the hospital closed. Below it, someone had written in red marker, "Still missing." I photographed it. Good atmospheric detail. I didn't realize until later that the handwriting was fresh. The ink wasn't faded like everything else. Moving to the second floor, I found the cafeteria. Tables and chairs scattered like a tornado had hit them. The serving line still had trays stacked up, waiting for a meal that would never be served. My footsteps echoed in the vast space, and I became acutely aware of how alone I was. Except, I wasn't sure I was alone. I kept seeing movement in my peripheral vision. Just flickers. Shadows that seemed to move independently of my flashlight. I'd turn quickly, camera ready, but there was never anything there. Just the darkness and the decay. Old buildings settle, I told myself. Rats, maybe raccoons. But I'd never seen rats move like that, and I'd never heard them whisper. It was on the third floor that things started feeling truly wrong. The pediatric ward. The walls were painted with faded cartoon characters, smiling dinosaurs and happy clouds. But the colors had faded to sickly pastels, and the smiles looked more like grimaces in my flashlight beam. Small hospital beds lined the walls, some still made up with sheets, as if the children had simply vanished in the night. The air here felt different, heavier. Each breath seemed to stick in my lungs. The temperature had dropped at least 10 degrees, and I could see my breath forming small clouds in the beam of my flashlight. I was setting up a shot of a particularly haunting room. Teddy bear still sitting on the bed, IV stand beside it like a skeletal guardian, when I heard it. Footsteps. Small footsteps. Light, like a child running, down the hallway, away from me. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my flashlight and moved toward the sound. The rational part of my brain was screaming to turn around, to leave, to forget the $3,000. But curiosity, or maybe stupidity, pulled me forward. The hallway ended in a T intersection. The footsteps had gone left, I was sure of it. I turned the corner and swept my flashlight across the corridor. Nothing. Empty. But at the far end, a door was swinging slowly shut. The sign above it read, "Playroom." I approached slowly, my camera forgotten in my bag. The door had no window, just solid wood with chipped paint. My hand trembled as I reached for the handle. It was cold. So cold it burned. I pushed the door open. The playroom was wrong. Not abandoned wrong. Not decayed wrong. Active wrong. Toys were arranged in careful patterns on the floor. Blocks spelling out words I couldn't quite read in the dim light. Stuffed animals sitting in a circle, facing inward, as if in conversation. And in the center of the room, a small table with 2 chairs. On the table sat a tea set. Plastic cups and pot, the kind children use for pretend tea parties. Steam was rising from the pot. My flashlight beam caught it clearly. Thin wisps of steam curling upward from the spout of a plastic teapot that shouldn't be warm. That couldn't be warm. I stepped back. My foot knocked against something. I looked down. A child's drawing. Crayon on paper. Recent. The paper was clean, white, not yellowed like everything else in this place. The drawing showed a stick figure man with a camera. That was me. Had to be me. Standing in a room with other stick figures. Lots of other stick figures. All around the man with the camera. At the bottom, in careful, childish print, "We miss visitors." My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the flashlight. The beam danced across the walls, and I saw them. Handprints. Hundreds of small handprints, covering every wall. In different colors, paint, marker, crayon. Some looked old. Some looked fresh. One was still wet. I watched a single drop of red paint, please God let it be paint, drip slowly down the wall. I ran. I burst out of the playroom and sprinted back toward the stairs, my flashlight beam bouncing wildly. Behind me, I heard it. Laughter. Children's laughter. Not one child, many children. Echoing through the pediatric ward, coming from every room, every corner, everywhere at once. And then footsteps. Running footsteps. Small feet slapping against linoleum. Coming from behind me, coming from ahead of me, coming from above and below. I hit the stairwell and took the stairs 2 at a time, my camera bag slamming against my back. I needed to get to the ground floor. Get to that loading dock door. Get the hell out of this place. But when I reached what I thought was the ground floor, the door opened onto a hallway I didn't recognize. This wasn't right. The signage said, Floor 4, psychiatric ward. 4th floor. I'd gone up instead of down. Impossible. I'd been going down. I'd felt the downward momentum. But the signs didn't lie. Or did they? The psychiatric ward was darker than the rest of the hospital. The windows here weren't just broken, they were covered from the inside. Sheets, blankets, paper, anything that could block out light had been stuffed into the frames. Someone had wanted to keep this floor dark, or keep something in the dark. The rooms here had heavy doors with small windows reinforced with wire mesh. I shined my flashlight through one. A patient room, padded walls, and on those walls, writing. So much writing. Scratched into the padding, thousands of words covering every inch. I moved closer to read them. The same phrase, over and over and over. Don't go to the 7th floor. Don't go to the 7th floor. Don't go to the 7th floor. Mercy General was only 7 stories tall. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. No signal, but the screen displayed a text message. From my own number. Get out while you still can. They haven't noticed you yet. I stared at the message. Sent from my number, to my number, 3 minutes ago. That's when I realized I hadn't heard the children's laughter in a while. The hospital had gone quiet again. That oppressive, wrong silence that had greeted me when I arrived. Something had changed. I was being hunted now, not played with. I tried every door, every stairwell, every possible exit. They all led up. No matter which direction I went, no matter how certain I was that I was descending, I ended up 1 floor higher. 5th floor, surgical ward. Operating rooms with equipment still in place, covered in rust and dust. On one table, restraints hanging loose. On the floor beneath it, dark stains I didn't want to examine too closely. Something dripped behind me. I spun around, nothing there, but the sound continued. Drip, drip, drip. I followed the sound to a sink in a prep room. The faucet was running. Clean, clear water. From pipes that hadn't carried water in 6 years. In the mirror above the sink, I saw movement behind me. I spun around. Empty room. Looked back at the mirror. Someone was standing right behind my reflection. A doctor in scrubs, surgical mask pulled down. His face was pale. Too pale. And his eyes were black. Completely black. No whites, no iris. Just darkness. He was smiling. I threw myself away from the sink, stumbling backward. When I looked again, he was gone. But on the mirror, written in the condensation, They're waiting for you upstairs. My chest was tight. I couldn't breathe. Panic attack. I was having a panic attack. I fumbled in my bag for my inhaler. I don't have asthma, but I carry one for anxiety, and took 2 puffs. That's when I heard the elevator. A ding, cheerful and bright, completely out of place in this nightmare. The elevator at the end of the hallway. Its doors were sliding open. The interior was lit. Bright fluorescent lights, so different from the darkness everywhere else. And inside stood a nurse. She looked normal. Maybe 60 years old, gray hair pulled back in a bun, old-fashioned white uniform. She smiled at me warmly. "Going up?" she asked. Her voice was kind, grandmotherly. I want to go down," I managed to say. Her smile didn't waver. "The only way down is up, dear. It's always been that way here. Come along now. You're expected." Expected? Expected by who? By everyone. Her smile widened. "We so rarely get visitors anymore. Not since they closed us down. It gets lonely. So very lonely." The elevator doors started to close. I ran forward and caught them, stepping inside before I could think better of it. The doors slid shut behind me. I was trapped in a small metal box with this woman who couldn't possibly be real. She pressed the button for the 7th floor. "No!" I reached for the buttons, trying to press anything else. Ground floor, 1st floor, emergency stop. None of them responded. The elevator began to rise. "Who are you?" I demanded. "Nurse Patterson, dear. I worked here for 42 years, since the hospital opened in 1962. I loved this place. We all did." She looked at me with those kind eyes. "Even after what happened." "What happened?" "The accident. Floor 7, 1987. The psychiatric ward. A fire broke out during the night shift. Doors were locked from the outside. Safety protocols, you understand. The patients couldn't get out. Neither could the staff." Her voice remained calm, almost cheerful, as she described horror. 43 people died that night. They renovated the floor afterward, reopened it, but it was never the same. "You died in that fire," I said. It wasn't a question. She smiled. "Yes, dear, we all did." The hospital closed that wing for a year, but the damage was done. The building remembered. And when they finally closed Mercy General for good, well, we stayed. Where else would we go? The elevator dinged. 7th floor. The doors slid open. The 7th floor was alive. That's the only way I can describe it. The walls pulsed like they were breathing. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered in rhythm with something I couldn't name, and the smell. God, the smell. Smoke and burning flesh and antiseptic all mixed together. Nurse Patterson gestured for me to exit. "They're waiting in the commons room. Everyone's so excited. We haven't had a visitor in so long." "What if I refuse?" Her smile finally faltered. Her face changed. The kindness drained away, replaced by something else. Second, hungry. "Then you'll stay here, forever, like the others who refused." She pointed down a side hallway. I turned to look. Figures stood in the darkness. People, dozens of them, all facing the wall, perfectly still. I recognized one, the photographer who disappeared here 3 years ago. The local news had run stories for weeks, search parties, nothing. There he was, standing motionless, camera still hanging around his neck, staring at the wall. What happened to him? He said no. Nurse Patterson's voice had lost all warmth. So he stays. They all stay. Standing, watching, waiting, forever. I stepped out of the elevator. The doors closed behind me. When I turned back, the elevator panel showed it descending. No call button on this floor. No way to summon it back. I was trapped. This way, dear. I followed Nurse Patterson down the hallway. The walls were covered in photographs. Old pictures of the hospital in its prime, smiling staff, patients being treated, grand opening ceremonies. But as we walked, the photos changed, became darker, showed things they shouldn't show. Operations going wrong, patients screaming, staff with those same black eyes I'd seen on the doctor downstairs. And in every photo, somewhere in the background, watching, a figure in a white coat. The same figure, tall, impossibly thin. No face, just a blur where the face should be. Dr. Thorne, Nurse Patterson said, following my gaze. He was the hospital administrator, so dedicated to this place. When the fire happened, when we all died, he couldn't let go. He kept the hospital alive, kept us alive, or something like alive. She stopped at a door marked Committer's Room. Beyond it, I heard voices, lots of voices, talking, laughing, the clink of silverware on plates. They're having dinner, she said. We always have dinner at 7 p.m. It's tradition. And tonight, you're the guest of honor. She opened the door. The Commons room was full of people. Doctors in white coats, nurses in crisp uniforms, patients in hospital gowns, orderlies, administrators. All of them sitting at long tables, eating dinner from trays, having conversations. Behaving like this was completely normal. And all of them were dead. I knew it the moment I saw them. Something about the way they moved, too smooth, too precise. Like puppets being operated by someone who'd only heard descriptions of human movement. They all turned to look at me. 43 faces, 43 smiles, 43 pairs of eyes, all completely black. "Welcome," a voice boomed. At the head of the table stood Dr. Thorne. Up close, I could see him clearly now. Impossibly tall, maybe 7 feet. His white coat was pristine, but underneath, his body was wrong. Too thin, joints bending at odd angles. And his face. He had no face. Just smooth skin where features should be. But somehow he was looking at me. Somehow I could feel his gaze. "We're so pleased you could join us," Dr. Thorne continued. His voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "It's been so long since we had a proper guest. Please, sit." An empty chair appeared at the table, right in the center, surrounded by them. "I don't want to sit," I said. My voice cracked. "Sit!" The command wasn't loud, but it shook the room. The walls pulsed, the lights flickered. Every figure at the table stood up in perfect unison. I sat. A tray appeared in front of me. Hospital food. Mashed potatoes, green beans, some kind of mystery meat. It looked almost real. Smelled almost right. "Eat," Nurse Patterson said from beside me. She'd taken a seat, was smiling again. "We all eat together here. It's important to maintain routines." What happens if I don't? Dr. Thorne leaned forward. When he spoke, I saw his mouth form, a slash across the smooth skin of his face, opening to reveal darkness inside. Infinite darkness. Then you joined the others in the hallway, the ones who refused. They stand forever, still conscious, still aware, but unable to move, unable to leave, unable to die. Because you're already dead, I said. We prefer permanently employed, Dr. Thorne said, and laughed. The others laughed too, all at once, all the same laugh, echoing in the commons room. I looked at the tray, at the food, then around at all the faces watching me. This was it. This was the moment. Eat and become one of them. Refuse and become a living statue. No other options. My hand shook as I reached for the fork. Then I remembered something. The drawing. The children's drawing from the pediatric ward. We miss visitors. Visitors. Not staff, not patients. Visitors. They couldn't keep me here unless I accepted their hospitality, unless I ate their food, played their game. That's how it worked in all the old stories, the fairy tales, Greek myths. Don't eat the food in the underworld. This was an underworld, a pocket of death in the living world. I stood up. The chair scraped against the floor. Every eye in the room locked onto me. I appreciate the invitation, I said carefully, but I'm just visiting. I'm not staying for dinner. I'm not a patient. I'm not staff. I'm just taking pictures, and now I'm leaving. For a long moment, nothing happened. The room was perfectly still. Then Dr. Thorne spoke. You can't leave. The hospital doesn't let anyone leave. The hospital is a building. Buildings don't make decisions. You're trying to keep me here, but you can't. Not unless I agree to stay. And I don't. The lights flickered violently. The walls began to pulse faster. The food on the trays started to rot, turning black and writhing with maggots. The faces around me twisted, losing their human masks. Mouths opened too wide. Eyes sank into skulls. Hands reached toward me, fingers too long, too many joints. Run! A voice screamed. I looked around. One of the patients, a young woman in a hospital gown, was staring at me with eyes that weren't black. Human eyes. Terrified eyes. Run! She screamed again. Before they realize they can't keep you! I ran. Behind me, chaos erupted. Inhuman shrieks, the sound of chairs scraping, footsteps, so many footsteps, coming after me. I burst out of the commons room and into the hallway. Which way? Where could I go? The elevator wouldn't come. The stairs only went up. Then I saw it. At the end of the hallway, a door I hadn't noticed before, marked emergency exit. Of course. Fire escapes are external. They had to be accessible even from the dead floor. I sprinted toward it. Behind me, Dr. Thorne's voice boomed through the hallway. You cannot leave. You are part of the hospital now. You are ours. I hit the emergency exit door at full speed. It burst open. Stairs. Blessed stairs. Metal fire escape stairs leading down. I grabbed the railing and descended as fast as I could, my feet clanging on the metal steps. Down, down, down. Behind me, the door burst open again. I looked back. They were coming. All of them. Pouring through the door like a swarm of insects, crawling over each other, moving too fast, too fluid. I jumped the last few steps of each flight. My ankle screamed in pain as I landed wrong on the 5th floor landing, but I kept going. Couldn't stop. If I stopped, they'd catch me. 4th floor, 3rd floor, 2nd floor. The fire escape ended at the second floor. A ladder led down to the ground. I grabbed it and started climbing down, hands slipping on the rusty metal. Above me, they reached the second floor landing. Dozens of hands reached for me. I let go of the ladder, fell, maybe 10 feet, hit the ground hard. Something in my shoulder popped, but I was on the ground, outside, in the real world. I scrambled to my feet and ran, across the overgrown parking lot, through the gap in the fence, onto the street. I didn't stop running until I reached my car, parked 3 blocks away. My hands shook so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. Finally, the engine started. I pulled away from the curb, tires squealing. In the rearview mirror, Mercy General Hospital stood against the night sky. Dark, silent, as if nothing had happened. But on the 7th floor, in one window, a single light was on. And in that window, I could see Dr. Thorne, standing, watching, waiting. That was 3 days ago. I went to the police the next morning, showed them pictures on my camera. Except, the pictures weren't what I'd photographed. Every single shot showed the same thing. Empty rooms, empty hallways. Nothing out of the ordinary. The playroom photo? Just an empty room. No toys, no tea set, no steam. The writing on the walls? Just blank, peeling paint. My photographs proved nothing. The police did a wellness check on the hospital anyway. Found nothing unusual. No signs anyone had been inside in years. The loading dock door was still locked, from the inside, with the chain intact. So how did I get in? I couldn't answer that. My therapist thinks I had some kind of breakdown. The stress of my work, the isolation of urban exploration. She prescribed medication, told me to take a break from abandoned buildings. I threw the pills away. Because I know what I saw, what I experienced, and I know it's not over. Strange things have been happening since I left the hospital. I wake up at 7 p.m. every night, exactly 7 p.m. Doesn't matter what time I fall asleep, my body jolts me awake at 7. Dinner time. My apartment building has 7 floors. I live on the 4th. But sometimes, when I take the elevator, I swear I see an 8th button. One that wasn't there before. One that goes to a floor that shouldn't exist. I haven't pressed it. I'm afraid of what I'd find. And the photos. Remember the ones on my camera that showed nothing? I looked at them again yesterday. They've changed. Now they show people. Lots of people. All facing the camera. All smiling. With those black eyes. In every photo, standing in the back, barely visible, Dr. Thorne, watching me. And this morning, I received a package. No return address. Inside, a visitor's badge from Mercy General Hospital, with my name on it. Below my name, one word: patient. I think they're waiting for me to come back. I think they've marked me somehow. When you enter that hospital, you leave something behind, or bring something back with you. The demolition is scheduled for tomorrow. They're tearing down Mercy General, finally putting it out of its misery. I hope that ends it. I hope that when those walls come down, whatever's inside is released, or destroyed, or finally allowed to rest. But I don't think it will be that simple, because last night I got a phone call from my own number, again. I answered it this time, couldn't help myself. The voice on the other end was mine, but wrong, hollowed out, empty. "We're waiting for you," my voice said. "Come back to the hospital. You're part of us now. You were part of us from the moment you stepped inside. The hospital doesn't let anyone leave. Not really. I did leave, I said. I got out. Did you? The voice asked, and laughed. That same laugh I'd heard in the commons room. Look at your calendar. I looked. Every day was marked with the same appointment. Dinner at Mercy General, 7 p.m. Starting tomorrow. You'll come back, my voice said. They always do. The hospital calls to those who visited, calls them home. The line went dead. So now I'm telling you this story, putting it out there. Because if something happens to me, if I disappear, if they find me standing in some abandoned hallway staring at a wall, I want someone to know what happened. Mercy General Hospital is being demolished tomorrow at noon. I'm going to be there. Not inside, God, never inside again, but watching from a distance, making sure it comes down, making sure they don't take anyone else. And if you're listening to this story, learn from my mistake. Some buildings should stay abandoned. Some places should never be explored. And some doors, once opened, can never truly be closed again. I keep checking the time. It's 6:45 p.m. 15 minutes until dinner. My keys are in my pocket. My car is parked outside, and I swear to God, I can feel myself wanting to get up, wanting to drive to the hospital, wanting to take my seat at that table. It's calling me home. If you ever find yourself near an abandoned hospital, or any abandoned place where people died, remember this: the dead don't always rest. Sometimes they linger. Sometimes they wait. Sometimes they invite visitors. And sometimes those visitors never leave. Mercy General stood for 60 years. It closed 6 years ago. It took 43 lives in 1987, and I'm terrified it's about to take one more. Mine. Thanks for listening to my story. Whether you believe it or not is up to you. But I'll tell you this: I've deleted all my photos of abandoned places. I've quit urban exploration. And I sleep with every light in my apartment turned on. Because in the darkness, I see them sometimes. The staff of Mercy General, standing in corners, watching, waiting. Dr. Thorne is always there, always in the back, that tall figure with no face. And I swear he's getting closer each night. The demolition is tomorrow. I'll let you know if it works. If you hear from me again, it means I survived. It means the hospital is gone and I'm finally free. And if you don't hear from me, well, you'll know where I am. Standing in a hallway on the 7th floor, facing the wall, waiting for the next visitor, forever. If this story kept you up at night, please hit that subscribe button. I share new horror stories every week, though after this one, I might stick to fiction. Reality is far more terrifying. Leave a comment below telling me, would you have taken the job? Would you have explored Mercy General for $3,000? Or would you have trusted your instincts and walked away? And if you've ever been to an abandoned place and felt like you weren't alone, I'd love to hear your story. Email me or share it in the comments. Just remember, some experiences change you, some places mark you, and some invitations should never be accepted. Thanks for watching. And remember, always check your calendar. You never know what appointments you've made that you don't remember making. Stay safe out there. and stay away from abandoned hospitals. Trust me on that one.